Hello boys and girls, hi from GB, your favorite basketball store, which also happens to be the best basketball store around. Today we're shooting a video that's a little bit different, and we're telling you a story that's really different and that is really important. Perhaps it is the most important story of them all. It is a story about Nike shoes and the beginning of Nike's basketball shoes, to be more specific. It's not the story about the first Nike Blazer or Bruin or some of the other models that were worn by George Gervin and other players. It's not a story about Michael Jordan and his famous line. It is the story about the shoe that many agree started it all. And of course, this is the Air Force One. The shoe came out originally in 1982. It was the first basketball shoe to introduce air technology, which was previously used only for running shoes. This, of course, made the shoe insanely popular with basketball players because it was very comfortable and provided additional protection. Another great feature that it had was a strap around the ankle. It is interesting that the shoe was really launched as a low-profile model. There were no big-time marketing investments, apart from the so-called original six, the six athletes that promoted the shoe. And this was Michael Cooper, Calvin Nat, Jamal Wilkes, Bobby Jones, Michael Thompson, whose son you might have heard of because he plays for the Golden State Warriors and wears number 11, and his name is Clay. And the most famous and most important model was the man, the myth, the legend, Moses Malone, who was also at that time the most valuable player of the NBA Finals and of course the NBA champion. It was normal back then for Nike, or for shoes in general, to be removed from the shelves within 2 or 3 years. And this is what happened with the Air Force One, regardless of the fact that they were very popular. And then a twist of fate occurred and the shoe came back to life. There were 3 small stores in Baltimore, and they were called the Three Amigos, the 3 of them together, who kept asking Nike to bring the shoe back because it was so popular in their area. Once Nike responded to their petition, other stores from Philadelphia and New York joined in on this cause, and basically the Air Force One was the first shoe that was retroed within a few years after its original release. As I said, the story of the Air Force One is really special. But to make the story even bigger, the shoe had to move outside of basketball, and it moved into hip hop, into skating culture, into street culture, and this is where it really took off. And many years later, it evolved into the great story that we know today, where there are more than 2,000 models and colorways of the Air Force Ones. For example, in 2001, women's only models were starting to be released, and more new models kept coming out. We're going to start it off with the original. It's the high model. Originally there were only high Air Force Ones that came out, and another great detail that was changed with them was the swoosh. Prior to the Air Force One, swoosh looked a little bit different. Many called it a smiley, and people at Nike didn't like that, so they decided to make it look a bit more athletic, to give it more strength, so to say. This is the strap that we mentioned that was provided great support for the ankles. It is a interesting piece of trivia that each original release of the Air Force One has 34 holes on the front, and of course the sole is also different than with most shoes from that time, where it didn't have herringbone pattern, but it had these concentric circles to provide great grip and also to provide more comfort for the foot. Again, as you can see, as time moved on, all these new models started coming out, and soon enough we had the low models and the mid version of the shoe, and with time, more and more materials were being used to produce the shoe, and more patterns were used. So for example, here we have a really crazy looking, if you ask me, woodland camo pattern, but again, it looks great. I'm definitely a fan of something special like this. Of course, there are classic and clean looks where the white is predominant and just simple details are provided with different colors. We can keep moving along and see that here we have yet another woodland pattern. Then we have here where there's a little bit more action going on with the various colors, also looking great. Plenty of your time will go into choosing your perfect pair, but whichever you choose, trust me, you will not go wrong. Check it out and get your pair of an Air Force One.